Hello, welcome to the Spiritual Nerds podcast. We are so grateful that you are joining us either for the first time or again. And just to let you know who we are just three spiritual nerds, three friends who are passionate about spirituality and metaphysics and this journey of awakening that we are all on. And so we're coming to you every week to have these heart led and spirit filled conversations on topics that interest us. And today's topic is about trust, trusting the universe, trusting spirit, what that means, how to do it, how sometimes it can be really challenging to fall in and be in that trusting place. And Ashley, you want to talk a little bit more about what that means?
Yeah. I would say for me, you know, the idea of trusting the universe sounds great. In concept, I've always loved that idea, but the actual embodiment of it is actually terrifying. And also is such a portal to freedom. So I was just thinking, today we could talk about how we are working with trust and sort of the highs and lows of it all and the nitty-gritty, because part of this podcast and what's so amazing about it is that we're all working it.
Mhm.
This is probably the most important thing in our lives, is this embodiment of these ideas, and trust is a big one. It's always working me, and especially now. So yeah, I thought we could get personal today about how we're working trust.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like we're always in a process of trusting and leaning in, and sometimes it feels greater than others. And right now, I am in that void space. I feel like I've been in it a lot, but in that void of the unknown. And I think in those moments of like not knowing what you want or what is being offered to you, what you're open to receiving, not just being in this void is a really scary place to be. And I notice for myself, and is a common thread with people that I've worked with, is this desire to control, to want to know all the pieces. I will trust you if you've got it laid out in a map with all the steps, and then it feels really easy. But that's not really what trust is at all. And so, yeah, right now I feel that it's so much of trust is about surrender. And the card that I pulled today was surrender. And like, how do we lean into the trust, but also sort of relax and let go at the same time? It's it's really takes a lot of courage. It's scary to not try to control. I think it's our human ego part that wants to control. And yet that never seems to work out so well for me when I do that.
Or we're limiting the possibilities in a way when we're efforting and controlling, and we're not sitting in trust. When you're really sitting in trust, and I love that you brought up the void. That really hit. Like, how many times have we had to like sit in the unknown and trust, not knowing? And it's almost like we almost get to those places to practice it. It sort of doesn't matter what happens. The void is the invitation into trust.
Mhm.
Not supposed to know. But yeah, I was going to say, we what's, you miss out on what's possible, what's here.
That void is like the pure potentiality, right? I think we've spoken to that before, maybe in our law of attraction episode. And yeah, I think when we try to control, we definitely 100% limit the possibilities of what can be created.
Yeah, I feel like one of the tricky parts about uh, all the stuff that we're talking about is that there are energies and thoughts that we have that get mixed up. I think when we start thinking about trusting the universe in control, I absolutely agree, Shayna. The control and trying to control situations is problematic at best and usually doesn't work out very well. And a lot of that comes from fear. And when we get into fear and then we get into doubt, it's like you can't find trust anywhere. It feels like it's hiding, and you're like, where are you? You're supposed to be here. And I think that there's, to go back to the thing about control, there's something there where we are in this divine dance where we are partnered with the universe, we're partnered with consciousness, and we have intention and we have will. And those are close to control. Those can kind of get mixed up with control, but they're more, they're a little more pure, and there's a part of them that is, I have this thought, this desire, this thing I want to create, and I put it out there, and then that's where that part of it ends. And where we can get into the control part is manipulating situations or having expectations about what our dance partner, i.e. the universe, is going to do with what we just did. Like, we made the first move. We're like, okay, we're doing this dance, and I lead this way. And then the universe says, all right, well, now it's my turn. And that's where things can get a little clunky. That's where you might step on your own feet, because you're like, well, I wanted it to be this way, or I'm expecting it to be this way. And then we get into that place of controlling fear, trying to keep ourselves safe. And I think one of the antidotes for me for that is, right off the bat, is just like, relax, man, this stuff is not that serious. Like, it's life. Like, we can get so caught up in the small day-to-day details that we forget we're literally in a divine comedy. There is nothing serious going on here. We are here to just experience things and to have this dance with the universal energy, and just cut yourself some slack. Like, that's kind of my first go-to, is just cut yourself a little slack and say, this is all going to work out. Okay. Those are my initial thoughts.
Well, I love the idea of the dance. And I think that piece is so important because that's not obvious, right? When you're in the void, you're not thinking about your dance partner, right? And so, like, bringing that concept of the divine comedy, but also the dance partner, the relationship with life. Because if you're not tuned in to the relationship with life, what we're saying is just surrender into the abyss. Well, the abyss is life, but there's, we could come back to like the intuitive voice versus the mind. And, how do we begin to trust and listen and follow life's, invitations, and learn how to listen to that voice? Because when you get into the dance, it's actually so much better. It's so much more interesting. It's so much more fun. It's so much richer. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there that you might not want, right? Like pain and grief and all the things, right? Because everything is included. Everything is included in that surrender. You can't surrender to just one part of it. When you surrender to all of it. But once you get into that dance, it's like, life loves you. Life wants you to have everything you want. And you can really start to receive whatever is here, even if it's cancer, even if it's, I want a divorce. These things that we've labeled as bad, it may be the best gift the universe has for you. So you learn how to see and receive life at it without that judgment, without any of your own conditioning, labeling, or resisting. And you say, this also is love. And this also is love. The void is love. The not knowing is love.
Yeah, the void. I'm resonating with what you're saying so much. And I think I want to just clarify, at least from my perspective, when I'm talking about the void, I am talking about the creation of infinite possibilities. And it is frightening because you are a creator and it's all within you. And when you step into that blank room like the Matrix, it's all white, that could be really frightening. But the minute that you create a thought or an intention and you bring it out into the world, then you have a dance partner. And then everything starts to go from there. And I think the part that gets a little bit tricky for humans is we're like, well, what if I make the wrong choice? And it's like, there is no wrong choice. There could never be a wrong choice. There's just infinite possibilities and choices that all lead you to different situations and outcomes. And if you ride the wave with a smile and you're engaged in the process and you're like, this is all for me, then whatever the choice was is probably going to be pretty fun.
Yeah.
Some of the time.
Some of the time. Or I mean, it will lead there. But like Ashley was saying, that there is pain and there is grief, and that's all part of the process. But I like this idea of the dance. And I also think of it like a playground. But I like that differentiation though between the void. When I think of the void, I think of like mother energy, like holding you. And if you can just relax into that, you're being held in that loving mother energy. And then, yes, through that, I think if we can open to that, then it's not even, maybe we create like, the desire, but maybe something just comes through us. It wants to be birthed through us. And as we open up and like relax into that void, something bursts through us. And then, yes, that's when the dance happens. And then it gets to be playful. And I like what you were also saying, Ashley, about everything gets to be viewed as love or as somehow a benefit or something that is serving us. And I think what's really important about that is our perspective, right? How are we viewing life? How are we viewing our experiences? And I think our perception, our perspective of life is so important.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, I had an experience this weekend that might be a good example of how this got worked in my system. I was hosting a retreat this weekend, so I was the leader. I was supposed to be the leader. I mean, I was the leader. And the first day I was off on a hike, and I kind of felt this intuitive voice say the heart wants to open. And then I felt into it, and I could feel there was sort of a block in my heart. And I didn't know what it was, but I was receiving that. I was receiving the voice, the sort of intuitive voice, and then I was receiving the sensation, the energetics of the block. And instead of like the old pattern would have been, I've got to, first of all, I'm the leader. I can't be having a block in the heart, or I've got to figure this out. I've got to analyze it. And I just tuned into it to see if I understood it. And I just said, I don't know what it is. I don't know what this block is, but I said, thank you for showing this to me. And I'm open. I'm open to receiving help with it. I'm open to understanding it. So it just kind of that trust and that surrender into like reveal itself. And then as I was doing that, so this is the dance, I was dancing with life, I felt a little anxiety. So I tuned into this little anxiety and I thought, well, what's the anxiety? And the anxiety was this knowing, this part of me that knows that with any kind of heart opening comes grief. Those two to me are just linked. And so I thought, well, you don't just get to have, it wasn't me just saying, open my heart. It's like, okay. And everything else that comes with that, everything else that comes with a heart opening. And then I let it go. I didn't make it into a problem. It was still there. I could still feel it. Went through the day. And the next morning in my morning meditation, I just had this really deep healing. And a lot of the information came to me and I could actually feel the heart open. And the part that was blocking the heart was actually this part of me that was trying to protect me. So I was able to start to move into like honoring and loving and understanding that part. So it wasn't even there was a problem, right? It was just something that was ready to move. And so the dance is really a lot about receiving and surrendering. And it's not a lot of efforting. It's not managing. It's not analyzing. It's not strategizing. There was no doing. And it was just this massive gift. So there's a way we can like work it, really, really work it. And we just get so much.
Mhm.
Because if I had tried to effort through that, I don't know that I would have gotten it, because I almost like the resistance, the not trusting and taking that on myself would have probably just delayed it. I don't know how to say that. I don't know if that's true, but
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful example of the leaning into, but not in a controlling way, but leaning in an open way and not trying to fix and all of those things. That's the controlling, right? I need to fix this. I need to change this versus I'm going to trust that whatever here is okay, that I can just be with it and that like everything's okay. This can be here and everything is still okay. Yeah. The example that I have that I want to share that is up for me right now is that, I had really big decisions in my life happening where I knew what I wanted, right? I knew what I wanted. This is what I'm doing. I'm putting in like time and effort. I've got a clear vision. And then the universe is like, nope, nope. And those doors are like shutting and shutting. And if I'm in it, for me, it comes back to this perception and perspective. If I'm in a perspective that life is happening to me and that it's not for me and I can't trust it, then it's like, oh crap. Well, now what do I do? Everything is wrong. I'm stuck, kind of feeling. But because of the work that I've done, a lot of fear came up. I'm not going to lie. A lot of fear came up because what it hits is when I can control it, when what I want happens, then there's a safety and security in that. And when that doesn't, when it's the doors are closing, then it feels like that safety and security has been ripped away. And it feels incredibly scary. And so, similar to you, I could be with that and I could sit with that. And my perception shift as I hold myself in, like, okay, that's super scary. What's that triggering? Okay, yeah, all of that safety and security stuff. And then it allows me to shift into that surrendering and trusting. The piece here is like trusting those closed for a reason. Those closed for a reason. And as I could sit with the fear and the uncertainty, I also can notice excitement is there too about what is possible next. That's not it. And in the trust, I can be like, okay, then I know there's something else. This wasn't meant for me. There's something better happening. And I don't know what that is. But if I can hold the fear part of me and lean in, I can also touch into the excitement of what the potentiality that is available to me next.
and receive it.
Yes. Yeah.
I think what I want to make this explicit because I don't think we have. For me, I believe that the universe is working on my behalf. I absolutely believe that everything that is happening in my life is showing up for my benefit, for my soul's growth, and that it is all in some way meant to happen. And I don't say that that is for everybody. That's my personal viewpoint. But what's fascinating about that viewpoint is that even if you don't believe in metaphysics or in God or in anything bigger, if you just go down the pure positive psychology route, that mindset of dealing with life's hardships will always position you to look for the silver lining on the cloud. So it's like you don't even need to hold this idea of a benevolent creator in the dance with the divine that I love, all that stuff. You can just say at a fundamental level, I choose to look at what happens in my life and say, this is right. This is what's meant to happen. And how do I pivot from here? How do I take it in? How do I grow? And how do I move forward? And there's just something very beautiful in that. And that is the trust, right? That's a perspective. And then when you have that perspective and you actually believe it, then you start to live it and embody it. And Shayna, when I was listening to you, I was just thinking of that. One of the kind of aphorisms I like when kind of stuff goes off the rail is like, life's rejection is the universe's protection. And I know that that can seem kind of trite, but it's like, if you are in on this philosophy, then that's kind of how you have to hold it. And you just say, something better is coming, or that thing wasn't quite the right timing, or wasn't the right thing for me. And when you really sit in the trust of this whole kind of mindset, the benefit on top of, I think, things might work out better in your life is just that it feels better. I mean, at the end of the day, this philosophy, even if it's total BS and it doesn't work, you're going to be a happier person, most likely because of this worldview or this life view.
100%. I say that all the time when people are like, well, how do you know? It's like, it doesn't really matter if you know, if it feels good and life is working out better for you because of it, then why not? Lean in.
I was listening to you both thinking, kind of thinking about all the things all the conditioning, all the fear that you do have to work through or transcend, or I don't know, be able to see in order to have trust. I mean, trust is a really hard one. Yeah, I mean, it's been one that's been really hard. And I think in the last couple of years, I've moved from sort of a more skeptical, like hindsight kind of trust, like, oh, well, that ended up working out for this way or that way, right? Like the mind still wants to co-opt it. Like, oh, I trust the universe because of what happened. Instead of like, wow, what's happening right now is for me. And it's not even that neutral. It's actually really loving. It feels really loving. And even that, like, think about the energy of like what you're cultivating when you, like what you're saying, Nate, like it probably changes everything. It probably just that trust alone starts to rework things in your life. It changes how you walk through your day. It changes how you treat people. It's such an important part of spiritual awakening and to really embody it. But it's kind of like, I mean, I don't know what the right metaphor is. It's not easy. It requires a lot of courage and sitting with hard things. And you have to want it, kind of. Because it's really easy to just go into that judgmental, black, white, blaming, life is happening to me, I'm a victim of life kind of thing. So I feel like this is like a one that's particularly challenging.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you have hit on it a couple times now where you're talking about how judgment and kind of cultural conditioning, socializing, the space and the world in which we have been brought up in has left us with this multiple layers of kind of baggage and unexamined. I'm not a huge fan of subconscious thoughts or unconscious thoughts. I like to think of it as like unexamined. You have to look at some of this stuff and say, who's been packing this on and what is it? And so much of it is, particularly at a young age, is about not trusting. It's about judging things, separating things, qualifying things, categorizing things, all of these things to kind of keep us safe. Like, you're a good kid if you do this, you're a bad kid if you do that. That person's successful, they're good. All of these different things, and that totally kills trust, because then you're getting back into that place of, if I operate under the rules and I do things a certain way, then life will work out for me or whatever. And that's not trust at all. That's like manipulation. And, that's living out of fear. It's like, always, I have to do all of these things in order to have things work out. And another thing that you had talked about was neutrality, and that you think that you said that the universe isn't neutral, that there's love there. And I totally agree. But I also agree that, like, we talked about this in law of attraction, intention, law of attraction, all of that, the way that that principle works is, I think that is neutral. And so if you have a view that you are separate, that negative things happen to you, then the perpetuation of life circumstances are going to kind of pile on in that way if you can't examine that stuff a little bit and say, whoa, is this even mine? Like, I was loaded with this kind of nonsense, and it keeps me going down a certain decision tree of behaviors that lead to, bad relationships, picking bad jobs, all of this stuff. So there's a way that stuff, the neutral part is that they're just choices, and they come with experiences, and they come with feelings and emotions. And when we start to label them as good or bad or categorize them, that's when it just gets a little bit off the rail, and it becomes very difficult to trust. I mean, we've been kind of talking about this. It'd be very hard to say to someone, I trust in the universe, and I trust that famine in Africa is for those people's highest good. Like, I think that's where sometimes with this kind of stuff, it gets very tricky to navigate. Where I think the kind of spiritual practice comes in is to pull away the value judgment on experience and say, people are incarnating into this world for a certain experience, and their soul is on point. They know what they're doing. My soul knows what I'm doing, and my soul doesn't know what their soul's doing. So I should stay out of that stuff, and I can send love, and I can send light, and I can bring compassion. But it is way beyond our purview to think that we have any kind of knowing about what's happening out there in the world and some of these tragic things. What you have to lean back on is trust that the universe is giving everybody the energy that is, it's that energy that they are putting out there, and maybe not in this life, but it's the energy that they come into with their soul, and it's the energy of cycles of civilizations and cultures and groups of people. Things are happening.
I get what you're saying there. You've said a lot, and I'm like, have so much that I want to touch on.
Okay. Take it.
Okay. Where do I want to go first? I think it's really true. I think that's what it was very sticky for me for a long time, in terms of when you look at, the universe is good, spirit is good, it is all beauty and all joy and all of these things. And then you look out in the world and you're like, but then it doesn't make sense why all of these tragic things are happening. And I do agree that it's not our place to put judgments on right and wrong, good or bad. And I agree with you that we come in with our soul has a plan, and it's not my job to understand that, nor though in our human world is it not my job to ignore it either, if there's a place where I can be helpful. But that's like a whole nother conversation. I want to come back to where you were talking about like the childhood conditioning and whatnot. And I think it's not just childhood, even bigger, just our media, our culture in general is so divisive and so much about separation and fear that if you are plugged into sort of this 3D world of that fear and separation, it's really, really, really hard to be in trust. You have to get to another level of awareness and consciousness, I think, to be able to lean in and to not subscribe so much to the way we're being told the world operates.
Yeah, I like this too. I mean, I was just saying, to a friend, we were having this conversation about It's so amazing to be on the awakening path. I just think realization is so much fun. It's so great. But 25 years ago, I didn't know anything about it and everything was fine. I don't know that there's really a judgment on wherever we are in this process. But if you're open, if trusting the universe and seeing that life is here for you is calling you, it's a beautiful call. It's not easy. You know what I mean? We're going to be tested probably. There's a lot of things that will come through to help us work through that trust. And there's a million cliffs we're going to have to jump over or jump off of. But if you're not called to that, it's okay. It's absolutely okay. And everybody's sort of, but I do think that life gives us enough of what we need to keep opening and to the truth. And we're all in that somewhere along that process,
Which I think is I'm grateful that you said that, because everybody gets to be exactly where they are, and there's no judgment or anything like that. And we're all in our own process and timelines. And once you get here, from my own experience, once you get here to this awareness, I could never, ever see the world a different way. This feels so true and good, and I feel so held, and I can move through the world. Yes, I got through the world before just fine, but I struggled and suffered quite a bit more. Not that you don't go through hard things, but I think there's a difference between challenges and suffering. And now that I'm in this place where I do trust that life is working on my behalf, and that the universe has got my back, and spirit loves me, and there is a relaxing, and it just feels so much better to operate through the world like this.
It does. And I think that's why we wanted to do this podcast, because it's fun. It's fun. Spiritual awakening, it's hard, but it's rewarding, and it's fun, and it's exciting, and we love talking about it.
Yeah. And the nice thing about trust, if you really embody that and you live it, there's surprises that are just everywhere. You can be just startled with how hilarious the universe is, how things show up. Just as you said, Shayna, it's a lot of fun. It's very enjoyable. It makes life so much more interesting to kind of roll with things and hold things loosely. We still have agency. We're sovereign beings. We have intention, but that's why I like the dance metaphor, because it's like, you don't do all the work in a dance. You and somebody else are doing something. And the more playful and easy you are with it, the better time you're going to have dancing,
Yeah, I think there's something about trust that the platform or the foundation of trust allows you to let go of more efforting, to receive more of whatever life wants to give you. I don't mean receive more money. It could be that, but it doesn't have to be that. It could be anything. It could be giving all your money away. There's more receiving of the beauty of life, the magic of life, the wild, crazy synchronicity, the intelligence of life. I mean, it's just amazing what trust, that foundation of trust can actually give you in actual experience, not in concept, in actual experience. So I think we geeked out on that today.
Yeah, and where all the magic and miracles happen is in that foundation of trust. Then we're out of that control, and we're in that playground, we're in that dance, and then we're just like, wow, didn't know that was coming, and that was pretty cool. Or, oh, that kind of sucked, but okay, thank you. I trust that's for my highest good. What's happening next? Let me open up and see. And then, whoa, that was cool.
Yeah, I have I have an example of how trust worked out that's recent, that's kind of crazy. I have been recently talking to, I'm pretty sure it's my higher self, but I'm not sure, and getting information back. And I've been in this dialogue and using muscle testing to confirm different inspirations and hits and downloads. And I woke up one morning and was journaling and was like kind of having this dialogue with the universe. Should I pull cards? Should I do my journaling? Should I go meditate? And I was getting all these no's. And I was like, do you want me to leave the house? And it was like, yeah. And I was like, again, not really doing anything, just had this thought. I was like, do you want me to go to this town? A town I've never been to, but the thought came into my head. And they're like, yeah, go to that town. 30 minutes from my house. Never been there, went there, got out of the car, and I was like, do you want me to go left or do you want me to go right? They're like, go right. It's walking down the main street of this town. I see a shop and I'm like, do you want me to go in this shop? It feels like you want me to go in this shop. They're like, yeah, go in this shop. Go into the shop, spend 30 minutes in there. This was amazing little boutique shop. It's got Thich Nhat Hanh books. It's got Law of Attraction books. The guy at the counters talking about metaphysical stuff. Then I get in a conversation with him. The owner steps out from the other room and he was like, oh, I love talking about this stuff. We have this beautiful conversation. I leave. I walk to my car, getting ready. And I'm like, is that what you wanted me to do today? And they're like, yeah. And they're like, oh, one more thing. Pick that piece of paper up on the ground. I was like, it looked like trash. I pick up the piece of paper and I open it up and it's this course catalog. And right there on the front sheet was this thing about how to learn how to edit your like YouTube videos better. And I, like a week before that, I had started making YouTube videos and I've got a steep learning curve. And I was just like, holy cow, like this is crazy. The whole thing was just bananas. And I just went home and I was just laughing. I'm like, I have never in my life had anything that crazy happen. And that was like the full embodiment of trust because I had stuff to do. I didn't have that plan. And I was like, all right, we're doing this. So I want to at least share like, just one wacky experience where you just give in completely and see what happens.
Well, Nate, that's hysterical. I love that. I can picture the whole thing. And I just like love it so much. And I'm wondering if any of your YouTube videos are going to be around muscle testing.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I did do one.
Cool.
Yeah.
What a fun story about really trusting. Yeah. And you don't know. And then so cool that it was the YouTube thing popped up, but it also could have just been like, that was an awesome conversation that opened me up to something like a greater aha or whatever, it's so
absolutely
so fun. That's hilarious.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, I think the other thing that's important about that story is what you were pointing out, Shana, which is just when you trust the universe and you start getting into this dance that we're talking about, it's not like a lotto ticket didn't fly against my window and I'm like, great, jackpot. Like it's breadcrumbs. It's breadcrumbs of these events and interactions that are enriching my life and are part of my broader intention, which is to like, be more spirit led, be more joyous, and to get more clarity. Like that was kind of the intention I set that morning. All of those things happened. But they happen in these little beautiful ways. It's not like, and I had no idea what they were going to be. And I think that is part of the trust. It's like, it's going to show up for you in a very unique and unexpected way. And the process is enjoyable.
Yeah. And such the key point there is all of it. And the breadcrumbs that if like the trusting is, I've never experienced, nor have I heard anybody ever getting the big picture immediately. And then they're like, okay, they're jumping on in. It's like, it's just one little step at a time, following, trusting the voice, trusting the feeling, like this feels good. This feels joyful. This feels exciting. I'm going to lean into that and allow it to share the next step or the next move based on how I feel or what comes through that feels right or good.
Well, then you have to be willing to get in the car and go,
Yeah.
even if it's crazy. And for 30 minutes, be like, this is crazy. Right. So there's like that piece too of just following the energy because it's there
Yeah.
and no other reason.
Yes.
It's like a vacation. You go on a vacation. Nobody goes. I love that Jerry Nestor always used to say this. So like you could you could walk out of your house, get into the car, pull out, and then pull back in and not go on a vacation. And you're like, well, I'm back at the same spot I started. That's not the point. The point of a vacation is to just go be somewhere and experience and let things unfold in a way that are just going to surprise and delight you. And that's those breadcrumbs. Life would be not enjoyable if you knew the big picture, if it plopped out of the sky and all those things. The fun is the ride along the way, the little stops and shops and the different things that are happening.
Mm-hmm. I think what's so important too is understanding that it's these baby steps that we lean into, and it is the actual listening. I think that is the most challenging part of the trust is like, I know that's my biggest challenge is, I don't know that makes sense. Maybe that's not right. I don't know. Maybe I'll wait and see if that's still feeling like the way I should go. And to actually listen, to actually get in your car, Nate, and be like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm just going. Like that is it. It is so hard, but that is key. You have to take the action on the nudges.
I actually think that you could even take it a step further and say that people who are here on this particular spiritual path are going to get asked to experience things that are like radically out of your comfort zone, that being out of your comfort zone is part of the process and it can be expected over and over and over again. You should expect to be surprised. And in that way, you start to let go of the mind starts to get that it doesn't have to understand everything. You didn't have to understand what was in that town in order to just go. Right? And so, but that takes probably a lot of things that don't make sense to the mind, right? A lot of intuition that comes in that the mind can't understand. And that process itself is there to build trust. And once you've done it a bunch of times, you're like, it's working out. It's fine. It's better. You know what I mean? It really doesn't work against you. I mean, I have never followed my intuition and not, and I don't want to say had a bad experience because that doesn't even make sense, and been led astray.
Mm-hmm.
Just, I've never been led astray by my own intuition. Just never. I
think you're right that our comfort zone is our conditioning. So in the path of awakening, it does require us to be uncomfortable and take risks and do things that feel different. And that is really scary and it's really challenging, but that is part of the path.
Yeah.
That's the work, but also the fun.
That's the play. That's the
play.
dance.
Well, that's why it's fun to have people you can do the journey with, who can help you when you forget, and model it and mirror it and be in it together because it's cutting edge. It feels cutting edge. To have this much trust in life feels like a new frontier, really. And it's a big topic and we really have a lot to say about it. I think probably because we're all working it. Mm-hmm. So it's probably going to come back around on another episode, I'm guessing.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, if you are on this journey, if you are wanting to trust more and leaning in and working to build your capacity to feel guided and supported by life itself, then know that it is a challenge. Know that it is going to be outside your comfort zone. Know that you're going to feel like it's not going to quite make sense. And that's all a part of it. And I think it is key to have community that is on the same path, because if you just walk out your door and you go into life, you're going to get all different messaging. So it's so important to have people who can remind you, who are walking this path. And our podcasts, we're part of that. We're part of your community. We're having these conversations. We're so excited that you are joining us. So thank you for listening today, and anytime that you pop into our podcast and listen to our episodes. And if it is resonating with you, if you are enjoying it, then we would love for you to subscribe. We'd love for you to share it with your community so that this path of awakening continues to expand, because the more that we do this, the more people that are raising their consciousness and are opening up to this awakening, the better it is for all of humanity. So thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.